Hi everyone, today I'll be presenting my final project for CS506. This is a midterm report. The goal of my project is to predict UK and US fashion trends for 2025-2026 using data from 2024. I started by importing the necessary libraries, then I took a look at the data and made sure that there were no null values. I then started by using logistic regression, but that didn't work well because the dataset contained strings. And the logistic regression can't handle directly. I chose ratings via my target Y measurement, as it is information that basically tells whether or not the article of clothing was liked or well received. After encoding the categorical variables, I retried the model, but the predicted power was still extremely low. The validation RC was about -5 times 10 to the -5, which basically means the model couldn't explain any variance. So then I moved on to linear regression. I used one-hot encoding to turn text into numeric columns. However, even with that, the results were almost identical to logistic regression. The model predicted an average rating of around 3 no matter what the input was. This told me that the features I chose weren't helping the model make meaningful predictions. To confirm that, I used a random forest regressor, which can handle non-linear relationships better. Although unfortunately that also gave similar results, meaning that the data itself just didn't have strong predictors for rating. When I checked feature importance, I found that price and review count had the most impact, but even those were very small. Essentially, none of the variables really explained the ratings well. At that point, I switched strategies and tried turning the problem into a classification task instead. I used a random forest classifier to predict whether a product would have high or low rating. This time the model did slightly better. It was no longer predicting all zeros, meaning it could separate high and low ratings a bit, but the accuracy was still low, around 51%. Looking at the confusion matrix, the model correctly predicted about 52% of low ratings and 48% of high ratings. It made a lot of mistakes predicting the high ratings, which showed that the model picked up some weak patterns, but nothing strong enough to be reliable. To better understand why, I plotted the rating distribution using a histogram and summary statistics. The results showed that the ratings were very clustered. Most products had about the same rating. That's why the models just kept predicting the average value. When I looked at the probability outputs, the regression line hovered around 0.4, showing that the model was underconfident and struggled to separate high from low ratings. In the end, I learned that the problem wasn't the models in themselves, it was the data. The features I had simply weren't strong predictors of product rating. If I were to continue this project, I'd focus on gathering better data like the sentiment of customer reviews, product categories, or brand reputation. Adding those kinds of features could make the model much more accurate. Overall, the project has so far taught me a lot about model evaluation, feature importance, and how critical good data is to build predictive models. I think going forward, I may have to change the data that I use, and possibly if the models that I chose for this one, if I use them for the next one, if they don't do as well, I may have to change my strategy on that as well. But I think for now, I think I should choose possibly better data, because I do believe that I can predict fashion trends, even though of course they do vary on multiple different things, but I think if I simplify it to what attributes I'm using, I think I could make some predictions. Thank you for listening.